I've started a new company, Superlogical. We're going to begin by building a terminal multiplexer. What would the Lord think? Okay. What would the Lord think?
I don't know anything against tmux in particular, but terminal multiplexers as a whole, I think are a bad idea.
Multiplexer that Mitchell is going to develop, is it going to be universally compatible with all terminals in future features? There's someone that's going to create a terminal multiplexer. It should be him. But going back to Mitchell, okay, I opened Twitter and I saw this yesterday, the day before, 29th, yeah, yesterday, okay, so let me just open this post. Look at this. I've started a new company, Superlogical. We're going to begin by building a terminal multiplexer. The entire vision is much larger, but the multiplexer is the foundation. Sign up for the newsletter to get beta access and devlogs. Product updates only, I promise. Okay, so, okay. One of the things that comes to mind, first thing is this. What would the Lord think? Okay, what would the Lord think? Let's watch this clip pretty quickly, okay? And let's see if Mitchell plans to address the issues that the Gigalord, the quantum PhD Gigalord himself mentions here. Let's just watch this, okay? This is just so you learn something useful out of this day. Then just go and watch your slop, your TikTok, whatever it is that you watch, but this is important, okay? The audio isn't great, but you'll have to deal with it. Should we enable subtitles? Let's see. I have a tough one for you. I have a good question.
All right.
I want to see.
Let me drink some water
grab
first.
your water first. Yep. So you mentioned it. We briefly talked about it. I think you know what I'm gonna ask, probably, right? So it's a little bit hot. Not the man there, but I'm talking about the audio. It's a little bit high. Okay. Well, the men as well. Look at that. Look at that. What are your thoughts on tmux?
Oh, I don't know anything against tmux in particular, but terminal multiplexers as a whole, I think are a bad idea. The reason is quite simple. There are two reasons. One is so a terminal multiplexer works. I mean, it is a traditional type of terminal multiplexer like tmux. Works by essentially.
So he's talking about a traditional terminal multiplexer, right? I don't think Mitchell is going to develop a traditional terminal multiplexer. I have questions. We all have questions. Kovid will have questions, you know. But let's see. Let's watch this video. This is just to have a little bit of context on where we're starting with all this multiplexers thing.
Implementing a terminal inside a terminal. So every byte of data that comes from the actual terminal application has to be interpreted by two terminals. Now, obviously, this is a doubling of, the cost, the halving of performance, doubling of CPU cost, or whatever. And this can't be avoided. No matter how well tmux designed it, it is two terminals in the end. So that is one obvious problem with terminal multiplexers. The other more insidious problem that most users may not realize or care about even is that it makes.
Okay, so two terminals. You're going through a translation layer pretty much, right? So your terminal, you send something to it. No, there's something in between that translates that and sends it to your application, whatever.
It's much harder to design new features into the terminal ecosystem.
Yep. That's the other thing. Okay. Let the man cook, motherfucker. Let him talk. Like, he's the expert. What the fuck are you talking about? Just shut the fuck up and play the video. Calm down. Calm your ass down, chat, okay? I'm just trying to say something here.
Because the terminal multiplexers, like I said, they're a second terminal, right? So if somebody is using, say, Kitty and tmux, for a feature to work well, it has to be supported by both tmux and Kitty.
Yeah.
And only both of them cooperate and both of them implement that feature, does that feature actually end up in the hands of the end user. And it's worse than that, and that's because.
So pretty much, the terminal multiplexer limits the terminal that it runs on. Okay, I saw this the whole time when I used tmux in the past. I used it with NeoVim. If tmux was gracious enough to support something correctly, like images, for example, they would work on the terminal, on Kitty. On WezTerm, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like, it's a limiting factor for terminals, right?
A terminal multiplexer works by essentially rewriting the escape codes that move between the terminal and the terminal program. So it has to do that because it splits up the screen, but the terminal doesn't know the screen has been split. The terminal program doesn't know the screen has been split.
It's considered stop littering on the internet.
So they are both as working on the assumption there's a single screen. To somehow make that into two screens, all movement things like say like a command to move the cursor to the end of the line, okay, a simple command, or say the beginning of the line, even simpler. That's the carriage return. That's just a single character, right? Supposing you're in the right hand side pane of a tmux split. If tmux passed that carriage return character unmodified to the terminal below it, the cursor would actually move to the beginning of the left pane. But the program that's running the right pane would have expected it to move to the beginning of the right pane. Like that's its window. So tmux has to actually intercept that escape code and change it to something else. It changes it to a cursor movement code that actually moves the cursor to the beginning of the right pane, which is actually the middle of the screen as far as the actual terminal is concerned. And this is just the simplest possible thing. It's the carriage return. It's a really simple escape code. There are far more complicated escape codes. Like I told you a little bit about the Kitty graphics protocol and Unicode placeholders and kind of hacks that we had to do to get it to work with tmux. So it imposes that kind of cost on the entire ecosystem. It becomes much harder for new features to be developed and to propagate. It ends up being like there is just a couple of gatekeepers for these features. So like if I want to implement some feature in my terminal and make it available to my users, if my users are using tmux, I can't do it.
Okay, so I have some thoughts here. The multiplexer that Mitchell is going to develop, is it going to be universally compatible with all terminals in future features or terminals? Or is what Kovid is saying here going to happen? It is going to limit terminals, and they will have to think when they design things to make them compatible with with yet another or yet a new terminal multiplexer. That would be the right thing, right? Now, the good thing is that Mitchell is a GOAT. He created a terminal already, Ghostty, so he has a lot of experience with this. He admires Kovid based on what I've read online, and he told that to me. Oh, okay. He told that to me in a conversation that we had in Discord. Okay. We were planning the interview, but it never took place. I think this would be a good topic to touch on between the two of them, I don't know if they're interested or not, but I think it would be a good idea. So Mitchell has a pretty great background with terminals, which puts him in an amazing place. Like if there's someone that's going to create a terminal multiplexer, it should be him. My question is, okay, of course it's going to be fully compatible with Ghostty. What about other terminals? What about Kitty? Well, those are the only two terminals. But what about Foot, brother? What about, what's the other one? The only one that like two people use. Hold on. Let me remember it. That important it is. Suckless terminal, brother. What about suckless terminal? What about Alacrity? What about iTerm? iTerm. There's people that talk about iTerm, brother. Like, okay, I used iTerm like, I don't know, 7 years ago. Yeah, okay. We're past that already. Okay, so what about WezTerm, brother? Wes has like, I don't know, 15,000 open issues on the WezTerm repo. I don't know if he still maintains WezTerm or not. It's a personal project, I think, WezTerm. It's a good terminal. I did use it. It's fast, but I don't know if it's like a very maintained project or if it's just something that he uses. The last release was 2 years ago, but he does apply fixes, I think, every now and then, right? Last commit yesterday. Who else commits stuff in here? Agai Gold, Tianan, Boo, Eldil, West 2 weeks ago. Okay, so he's still pretty active there, it seems. But those are the only terminals: Kitty, Ghostty, and WezTerm. The rest of them, brother, I don't give a rat's ass about them. Okay, yeah. Sometimes I need to use another one, like the macOS default terminal. If I have to, or Windows terminals or whatever comes in your Linux distro, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. But the main ones are those. How compatible is the multiplexer going to be with this? Okay. Ratty, I have to take a look at Ratty. I even had it in my to-do list at some point. I haven't checked it. I have to install it and give it a go because I don't know about it yet. It's written in Rust. That's all I know. And it's blazing fast. Maybe it's an awesome terminal, but I haven't tried it. And yeah, I cannot talk about it too much.
Because until unless I can convince the tmux developers to agree with me and implement that feature too. I mean, I can try to do some hacks like I did with the graphics protocol, but that's suboptimal for obvious reasons. So that is I think that terminal multiplexers are a sort of drag on the ecosystem's evolution as a whole. So that is one of the other reasons that I think that
So what happened with Mitchell? Okay, he has a blog post. We're gonna read that after. But I remember watching a video a long time ago in which Mitchell was like, man, terminal multiplexers are a problem. They should get the fuck away. He changed his mind. Why? What's going on?
Terminal multiplexers are not a good idea. And finally, a terminal is really a giant state machine. There's like a huge amount of state. The current text color, the decorations, the underlines, the various little knobs that change what happens when you receive escape codes. I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but there's like a huge amount of state that every terminal maintains. And a terminal multiplexer not only maintains the state itself, it has to translate this state between its own state and into some kind of state that works with its host terminal. And each host terminal is slightly different. They have slightly different behaviors, quirks, features. And so the terminal multiplexer has to bridge between them. It's like an insanely complex problem. You're sort of bridging two, slightly disparate states, very complex states, very large states, and you do it robustly. And so, if you go to any terminal program or sophisticated terminal programs, a bug tracker.
Yeah, so every terminal does things differently, right? So the multiplexer has to keep that in mind and just have edge cases for each terminal. The terminal has to adapt as well to the way that the multiplexer works in case they want to develop new features. So it's a layer there in between that should not exist, allegedly, okay? Just for the fans out there, so that brother, you're in this channel. You know that you're gonna get offended. I'm gonna talk shit about the technologies you love. Why? I just cannot avoid it, okay?
When you search for, say, tmux, you find a whole bunch of bugs that occur only inside tmux.
Yeah,
not when you run in the host terminal.
Yeah, I have
so
experienced.
I mean, that's kind of the practical consequence of what I'm saying. I'm saying it abstractly, like state machine, and it has to bridge things. But the practical consequence is there are a lot of bugs that happen because the program has to run inside a terminal terminal multiplexer, and that terminal multiplexer itself is running inside a terminal layer. And it's just an extra layer that, in my opinion, is not worth the cost. So, like, if I were to design a multiplexer myself, and this is on my to-do list at some point.
Okay, so the Lord has that on his plans, okay? Hold on, I have to stand up. So the Lord has it on its plans, but Mitchell jumped the gun first, it seems, okay? Okay.
I'd end up doing it is I would not try to split a single TTY into multiple windows. Instead, I would delegate the window management to the terminal and have a dedicated TTY per window. So this is much more robust. It doesn't require all the, like, for example, the carriage return thing that I said. It just works.
So will each terminal maintainer have to submit their PRs to make their terminal compatible with Mitchell's multiplexer? And well, Mitchell is a great maintainer because he would accept PRs coming from Kovid, from the Lord himself, right? So I think the relationship there would be quite good, We're just talking shit here. We don't know what's gonna happen, okay? We're just, how do I say it? I know the word in Spanish, but I don't know it in English. Hold on. Doesn't matter.
Automatically. So the downside of this is that my multiplexer will only work with, one or two terminals because, it requires features from the terminal which different terminals may not have.
Exactly. So how is that gonna work then? Each terminal maintainer will submit PRs to Mitchell's multiplexer if he's willing to accept them.
So, like, for example, Kitty doesn't have this, but WezTerm has its own multiplexer, which you can use as an alternative to tmux. So, so I don't know the details of how that works, but I'm guessing it's something similar. And so if I were ever to make a multiplexer, so main use case of multiplexers really is the remote persistence use case. So, you SSH into a server and, your network connection is flaky, so it will go off anytime. If you lose it, if your network drops, you don't want to lose a session. The running program shouldn't end and so on. So that's the one thing that I would still say that tmux is somewhat useful for. I mean, for the local use case, I'm of the opinion that multiplexers are completely an anti-pattern. You can do everything that you can do locally without the multiplexer just as well, if not better. But for the remote use case, there's still, I can see the use case. I personally don't use it. I have other ways of dealing with this problem, but I can see that it can be useful. So if I were to design a multiplexer, what I would do is I would make it cooperate with this host terminal so that the windowing and the splitting of this, the screen, the multiplexing part is managed by the terminal, and only the session persistence part is managed by the actual multiplexer program. So it's separation of concerns. I mean, it is the terminal's job after all to put up windows and interact with them and whatever. So let the terminal do that, and let the multiplexer focus on the session persistence, which is what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So that would be my approach.
I have a question for you there. The reason why I use tmux, I don't care about servers because I don't, my servers are locally.
Okay, so I talked to him about how I used sessions in tmux, and he pretty much gave us sessions in Kitty. Bro, the Giga Lord himself.
I SSH into them. If I lose the connection, I don't care, right? It's fine. Right. That part about tmux is not important for me. If it's a remote server, I lose the connection, I just SSH into it again, fine. I don't mind about that too much. But what I use tmux for is sessions, right? With a keyboard shortcut, right? 3 keys that I press on my keyboard, I jump to my .files. If I press another shortcut, I jump to my whatever project A. Another key, I jumped GitHub repos. Each one of them is a GitHub repo, which is a tmux session. That is the only reason I use tmux sessions.
So you can completely replicate that using strict returning. So I of course you say Kitty, but I suspect you can do the same. Let's say for example, WezTerm. So you can have session. So Kitty has like I said, a remote control API. So let me just show you that on my.
Yep. I'll switch to your screen. So can you ask Kitty? Okay, is this session running? If it is running, just switch to it. Do not create it.
Yes.
Yes. Because that's the main thing,
Yes. So for example, so Kitty has.
Okay, so it didn't work this way back then, but then he reached out and said, "Hey Christian, you talked about sessions. I implemented sessions in Kitty." Okay, so that is why I ditched tmux pretty much. Okay, so that's what you see me doing all the time. Let me try to explain sessions briefly for like the 10th or 20th time. Okay, so this is just a way for me to navigate to different projects. Okay, we were looking at this. Okay, now let's take a look at the website that is shown here. Let's see what Mitchell says about it. Okay, Superlogical. So this is the name of the company. Okay, I think that is not the name of the multiplexer, right? It has many modes of operation interactively with the human developer, automatically through CI and background processing, increasingly through agents working in parallel. Okay, this work is all related, yet today's tool divided into separate systems. Interactive tools assume a person at an interface. Automatic work disappears into jobs and logs. Separate systems and controls. It makes the fragmentation more visible and costly, but it did not create it. System administration. Okay, we'll leave the missing layers. A durable session around the work itself. One that can span applications and environments, provide relevant context by default, history by software, visual by people. Okay, build an incredible multiplexer. Made everything in it composable. Make it safe and operable in production. Okay, let's just read here. Just gonna read some parts out loud, okay? Long-lived session, so you can close the application, reconnect from another device, and pick up exactly where you left off. Okay, so the tmux functionality, okay? Pretty much, okay? I still use tmux from time to time. I created a video explaining when I use tmux and how I use it, just in case. I don't wanna go into that right now. But in case they want to see how I use tmux, where is that? This one. I explain and I give some examples where using tmux makes sense. My head is like fucking like a giant head right there. That's what she said. But yeah, because my phone was too close. But okay, let's just go back here, okay? Okay, so it's just going to take over the process. So if you quit the terminal, the process will keep running in the background and you can resume that process pretty much. So that's good. I want to know how compatible it's gonna be with Kitty, with the Lord's terminal. More modern touch. Sessions can be accessed through the web, native macOS applications. Sharing a live session with other people. Damn it. Okay. The most common paper cuts are making scroll back, selection, and scrolling all work natively. Narrow place to start a company. Our vision is much larger, but terminals connect developers, agent tools, infrastructure. Okay. High quality terminal that makes excellent the job, even as it grows to support the second and third parts of the plan. We'll have more to say about those later. Huh? Man, he's a really smart person. What is my boy cooking? What is he cooking? Can chat predict it? What is he cooking? What are you cooking, Mitchell? So it seems agent compatible. Is it terminal? Okay, there is something else as well. Yesterday, he shared another post in his personal blog post. Let's take a look at this. What did chat send? I don't want to compete. Okay, so Marco. We're going to have FurryConf next week? Someday next week. I don't know. We're going to have FurryConf soon, and Marco is going to demo his tools and other stuff there. So, okay. It's a nonprofit with its own governance and remains independent. Let's see here. So, yeah, Superlogical is the name of the company, not the terminal multiplexer. Okay. Homepage. Okay. Wheel building. I think this is what we read, right? Yep. This is what we just read. Okay. Personal statement about what led to this, how it relates to my recent work, and what comes next. Okay. Okay. For people that don't know who Mitchell is and then think that Mitchell is the creator of Ghostty, motherfuckers, you live under a rock. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Mitchell is the GOAT. Okay, he created a multi-million-dollar company before he started with his hobby project Ghostty. I don't know what other projects he has, but HashiCorp. If you work at a company, if you have been DevOps or some shit like that, you know what HashiCorp is. I don't need to talk about it, but for people that don't know about it, they have a lot of different tools. Terraform is like a really popular one. Vault as well, it's a really popular one. What else did HashiCorp create? But let's see what it says here. Let's see. Let's look it up. Vagrant as well, right? Vagrant is a huge one as well. So man, just Hacker as well. God damn it! I didn't know that Packer was from them. The rest of them, I don't know too much about. But he's the GOAT. He is the freaking GOAT. Oh, this is a long post. We are not interested in this at this point. I could read it, but that is gonna take us 1 hour more. I just want to focus on the multiplexer. But I never stopped building. Hold on. Since then, my primary focus has been a mostly full-time dad. Okay, I became involved with a lot of philanthropy, I wrote a lot on technical topics, sharing as much as I had the time and energy for. Okay, but I never stopped building. It's his personal passion, continuing building for the love of it. Okay, Ghostty. Most of that passion into Ghostty. Okay, we all know Ghostty. Okay, as a personal project, I thought I'd throw away, but instead grew into a project with millions of daily users, a large community with a wonderful group of core maintainers, and a reusable library powering impactful software as well as fun software. Okay, so this is what Emacs is using right now. Ghostdale, right? Because of this reusable library. Is that correct? Because of libghostty. Where else is it being used? I think we're gonna see a lot more new terminals. Neovim probably will use libghostty as its terminal. I don't know. No intention of ever commercializing Ghostty. To certify this, I donate the entire of Ghostty to a federally recognized nonprofit in 2025. This ownership legally binds Ghostty to the public benefit purpose it was created to serve. Oh man. It is now and forever an open building block that everyone can build on and learn from. But Mitchell, can I send my AI generated PRs to Ghostty? Can I? No, you cannot send slop to Ghostty. Okay, so if you come up with a wonderful feature, oh man, I have this amazing idea that AI is gonna help me execute. Keep it to yourself, brother. He's gonna recognize that it's slop and just slap you in the ass and in the face and call you a bitch. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, I cannot say these things on YouTube. Okay, so let's calm ourselves down. Okay, let's see. Ghostty is much more than just me. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Ghostty is made up of about a dozen core maintainers, almost 50 location members, and another dozen moderators. Okay. Oh man, my translation tool, my captions tool is not gonna understand what the fuck is going on, so I better read this correctly to provide it a little bit more context so that it edits the video correctly. Okay, listen. Okay, why is the terminal usage more widespread than ever? What continues to drive its growth? At what point does that end? What comes next? Why? Okay, I wasn't searching for a reason to start another company, but I found the problem I wanted to spend years working on. A scope that required a team and people I wanted to build it with. Superlogical will begin by shipping a terminal multiplexer. I'm pouring my years of experience building a terminal and studying the potential and limitations of other multiplexers into something new, powerful, and of course fast. Okay, my co-founders are some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. They're amazingly accomplished and their work speaks for itself. They're each going to play an equal part in making this something really special. One thing we all share is an uncompromising commitment for well-crafted software and software experiences. We will build on libghostty exactly as it was designed to be used. As a public building block for terminal applications, Superlogical will consume the same MIT licensed components available. You called for me? Why? To everyone else, and we will continue to upstream share terminal work so every libghostty consumer can benefit. Okay, so Mitchell, what about the Lord? Have we thought about the Lord? Are we gonna leave the Lord hanging? WezTerm itself remains a nonprofit. Its mission, governance, license, technical goals, and roadmap do not change. Of course, the terminal multiplexer isn't the entire vision. I'm not ready to share more yet, but you can learn a tiny bit more on the Superlogical website. Is this what we looked at? Yep, this is what we looked at. Okay. Sign up for their newsletter or beta access and the wherever others are on the way. Oh, and we're hiring. Okay, amazing. That sounds like a great idea. A multiplexer. That is my only question. Where is the Lord's place in this? Okay, are we gonna support the Lord or fuck the Lord? We just care about libghostty. Do we care about Kitty, Mitchell? Do we care about it or not at all? We'll see. Only time will tell. Okay, I'm going to follow this and share more updates as I see them. Okay, that's all we have as of now. I think it makes no sense to stay on Kitty. Ghostty is the future. Okay, let me school you right there, my little brother. So you can go to your food terminal and your SD terminal that cannot even fucking view images using the Kitty graphics protocol. What does it use? Shafa or Sixel or some like 1940s technology or some shit like that? Okay. So the only reason I'm in Kitty right now is because of sessions. That's it. There's no other reasons. Okay. It's because I ditched tmux and Kitty has sessions. So I can navigate around my projects really fast. And that is not something that Ghostty does. It will. Okay. It will with what Mitchell has in mind right now. But we're not there yet. Okay. It will with the multiplexer. We're not there yet. Once Ghostty has the multiplexer, oh brother, it'll make more sense. Okay, it'll make sense. We'll see what happens. We don't know yet. Okay, we're just talking shit. We don't know what's gonna happen, so we're gonna see in a couple months.